Hello everyone, and welcome to the Commexis Cast Daily for Friday, October 13th, 2017. All the news you need to know from our inbox to yours. I'm Matthew McGrorty, the videographer and podcaster here at Commexis, and today I am joined by the lead strategist at Commexis, Phillip Brooks.
Good morning.
And the president of Commexis, Len Ward.
Good morning.
So our first story today, an open letter to the advertising agency.
Yeah, so several of the larger advertising industry groups have put together sort of an open letter that pushes agencies and ad creators to self-regulate by creating better content, basically in preparation for a lot of the browsers now are beginning to offer their own ad blockers. And the standards by which they use those ad blockers, or what determines whether or not what's a viable ad and what isn't, is kind of up in the air. So we, as an industry in self-regulation, at least we can control that narrative and say, hey, look, these are what we feel like are bad practices, as opposed to letting the browsers make that choice. So I think it's an interesting push. It's something they've been doing already. The Coalition for Better Ads has been around for a while. I think it's more just, again, it's geared towards user experience, but I think it's a wise move to kind of get out in front of that and say, hey, look, we don't want the browsers to determine what is considered good ads or what's considered our standards. Let's determine our own, and we can control our own destiny, so to speak. So, I don't think it's a bad move at all, but I'm curious to see what everybody agrees upon, what those standards should be.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't Google use the Coalition of Better Ad standards?
They do.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, they do to some extent, but again, we really want to understand. Yeah, we don't see what they're actually doing and how they're weighting those decisions. But it's it's interesting just to kind of see what I would love to see what we think are the best ad practices, standard practices, as opposed to what browsers say or the users want. I think that gap right there, whatever that is going to be very fascinating to see what people want to see and what people think are actually acceptable.
Yeah. All right, so our second story for today is a little bit about DSW and influencer marketing. Yeah,
so this is, I kind of want to just use this as an entryway into a larger discussion about influencer marketing. We've talked about influencer marketing a bit. I have a couple of blog posts on our blog. Please feel free to check it out. We'll link it in the post. Yep. But influencer marketing is kind of a murky strategy at this point. Certainly we've seen it work very well for people. In this article specifically states some of the great numbers that DSW is getting with it. It looks like they went from 29.1 million spending in influencer marketing from the year prior. So it's that's a huge chunk of what they're spending towards influencer marketing.
And Pinterest also just came out with, I want to say it's the Pin Cushion, I think, which is basically like a creator studio for influencers. So I mean, clearly some people are giving it a shot.
Yeah. So let's kind of take a step back real quick and just talk about what influencer marketing is. So what influencer marketing is you find somebody on a social media platform where somebody has their own amplification process, either a blog, social media, a popular Pinterest channel or Instagram channel, and you essentially pay them for ad placement within their content. So they may write a blog post where they talk about your product, or they review your product, and you provide it to them for free, and you take advantage of their audience by their ability to amplify your content out there through their own audience. And there's been a lot of studies that say people that are considered trustworthy, or people trust influencers, they tend to buy what their heroes tend to like. So the thought process behind it makes perfect sense to me. I understand exactly why people would do this. However, there's a lot of doubt as to the veracity of how these influencers not only grew their markets and grew their audiences, but how really accurate some of these kind of second and third tier influencers actually are. If you're dealing directly with a celebrity, I get that. That's a big push. But some of these huge blog networks, that these mommy blogs and things like that, how we don't really have a lot of studies on how accurate those influencer numbers are, as opposed to how they built if they built their audiences organically or anything like that. And one of the posts that we talked about a few weeks ago, and Matt will go a little bit more into this because we were talking about it earlier. How actually accurate some of those numbers might be. You don't really know what you're buying.
Yeah, there was a study that we showed in the roundup probably about a month and a half ago. Basically, this company created 2 fake Instagram accounts. One was a travel blog, and one was sort of like a modeling fashion blog. And they were all set up in a day. So the model fashion blog was a 1-day shoot with a local model, and then the travel blog was all stock photos where they had, I believe it was a blonde woman, but never looking at the camera, so you never got a sense of who it was. It was just the places, and it was all stock photos. And they bought interactions and follower counts, and they also went into, if you could buy them in bulk from this cheap company, and you'll just get them like XYZ amount of time later, et cetera, et cetera. And by the end of it, this was probably over about a month and a half, the fashion blogger had gotten offers of totaling about $500, and then the travel blogger got about $300. So, there was no way for these companies to verify whether or not these were even real people, and yet they were willing to sort of throw money. I mean, I'm sure that there were people manning the accounts when it came to like direct messages and stuff like that, but the content itself was completely fake.
The problem with this influencer marketing, though, it is where the future's going. I mean, if you go look, I fall back on the generation of 7, and we're going young, or even 5 to 18. What they're watching on YouTube is their new TV. What these people are doing on, whether it's the stupid joke, stupid prank, the drop thing, the open the box, whatever you want to call it. These people are growing. I mean, I forget one gentleman who. I think he made some racist comments or anti-Semitic comments. Yeah, so and rightfully everything should have been pulled. But these people, this is growing. This trend is growing. So if you're B2C and you're selling products where you're targeting certain teenagers, you have to be really careful when you're going and investing in this influencer marketing, because your dollars need to be here on certain ones, but Phillip and Matt are right. I mean, some of this stuff is just bad, but it's another in the long line of, we are nothing short of the wild, wild west right now, and it's another thing ad agencies have to go through and say, okay, is this the right thing or not the right thing? But you are right. You can really go to Odesk, any of these people, and really have your numbers inflated really quick for about $1,000.
Yeah, and the flip side of that is if you're a retailer, or you're somebody that's looking at using influencer marketing as a strategy, you really need to do your due diligence about these channels and these people that are running them, because as Len said, he just put up a perfect example. PewDiePie, who's one of the most, I think he's probably the most, at one point, popular gaming channel on YouTube. Yeah. You throw all your money behind that guy, and he goes down, he's pulling your brand down with him, because it looks like you've given him tacit, kind of endorsement. So, you have to be very, very careful and make sure you look into where these audiences come from, and where these creators are coming into the mix, because if you put too much money behind somebody, they really, really could affect your brand.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in to today's episode of the Commexis Cast Daily. Check us out next week for more of the trending news. Have a great day.